These are two of the best phones you can buy on Team Green right now, and both offer unique features that will ultimately sway you either way. This is a tough one to call, so let's dive right into it. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas, and make no mistake, both of these phones are absolutely phenomenal. Heck, with Samsung slacking this year, I'd have either of these over a Galaxy S25 Ultra. But as I mentioned in the intro, each takes a different approach in its respective journey to deliver a truly flagship level experience. The OnePlus 13 goes all in on performance with a toned down aesthetic, where the Oppo Find X8 Pro delivers a more polished and well-rounded experience in my opinion, but at a higher price. Enthusiasts are going to be among the most interested in these things because they deliver a truly top-end experience with top-end features. Both offer 3-stage alert sliders, IP69 water and dust resistance, big silicon graphite batteries, super fast charging, big bright fast displays, and heaps of RAM along with top-shelf processors. They also don't look a million miles apart, with the big circular camera housing on the back, a display front that some are calling 2.5D, which I guess doesn't really exist, but basically a completely flat display other than the extreme edges that have a slight curve to them. Ports and buttons are also all identical in certain places, but there are some key differences here. I prefer the slightly curved side rails of the Oppo versus the flat ones of the OnePlus, though I've heard many compliment the OnePlus 13's hand feel, so that's going to be a more subjective thing. Look, neither are going to win design awards with a giant dinner plates on the back of them, but I think OnePlus's 13 just looks a little bit nicer, a little bit more understated, but in my opinion doesn't feel as nice as the Oppo. We have to talk about performance because that is one of the differentiators here, though not nearly as drastic as you probably think on paper. The OnePlus's Snapdragon 8 Elite is faster in pretty much every metric, but where the CPU is relatively close to the Oppo's Dimensity 9400, the latter's GPU is almost at the level, if not sometimes it beats out the 8 Elite. There are still people on the internet that argue that the MediaTek is just a bad chip, but I mean, the data doesn't lie, the statistics don't lie. This is a very, very high-end chip. Is it as well-rounded as the Snapdragon 8 Elite? Probably not, but it's well up there. Needless to say, if you want a gaming phone or something that's going to really top the charts, sure, you're probably better off going with the 13 here, especially due to longevity, which we'll get to a little bit later. But if that stuff's important but not critical to you, and you want a more well-rounded experience, maybe the Find X8 Pro is the way to go, because its performance, particularly in graphical fidelity, stuff like high-end 3D games, really is pretty much at the level of the 8 Elite. It just doesn't have the Qualcomm branding slapped on it. Regardless, these are some fast devices that should stay snappy for a good few years, thanks to their use of minimum of 12 GB of RAM and 256 gigs of UFS 4.0 storage. They power the big 6.8-inch-ish screens phenomenally too. These panels are fantastic, super bright, super detailed, very fluid at 120Hz, and since both are LTPO panels, they can drop right down to lower refresh rates to increase the already mighty impressive battery life. They're practically identical when you hold them side by side, and HDR and SDR, these are some of the nicest panels going. I know some people really dislike the tapered edges because in some cases it can be pretty fiddly to apply a screen protector to, but the nicer feeling, swiping in, navigation gestures, that kind of thing, for me it massively outweighs this negative. It looks to me like the OnePlus 13 has just a slightly smaller punch hole, if that's something that concerns you, but it doesn't matter to me. And both these things look phenomenal from the front, even if the massive footprint isn't going to be everyone's taste and pocket size. Speaking of, you already know these things are very large phones, and so it will come as basically no surprise to anyone that they can cram in huge batteries. They both use the silicon carbide setups that I spoke about in a dedicated video, so the batteries can be nice and big without the phones being 7 inches in footprint. The 13 once again has the edge here with a 6000 mAh cell versus the 90 mAh smaller setup you'll find in the Oppo Find X8 Pro, but capacity is almost identical. In reality, these phones lasted me about the same amount of time, to be totally honest. I could not tell the difference between these two and how long they last. However, other people's testing has shown that the Snapdragon 8 Elite is a little bit more power efficient and so keeps the OnePlus 13 going for a little bit longer. But I mean, it really is marginal at this stage. They both got me through 2 days on several occasions actually, and in both cases they never managed to die in the first day, within the first 24 hours of me taking them off the charger. You're really going to have to go turbo on your phone to kill either of these in a day, although when it comes to charging, since neither come with a charger in the box in Europe, that's a bit of a shame, but where you can use 100-watt wired charging on the OnePlus 13, the Oppo Find X8 Pro is limited to 80 watts, which makes it slightly slower to charge. They both have fast wireless charging and reverse wireless charging as well. Really impressive battery packages here. There are some physical differences that go beyond the spec sheet. The Find X8 Pro has this capacitive camera button on the side, which I quite frankly find basically useless. It's very fiddly. It's just basically what Apple's doing with its iPhones. And so honestly, I just completely ignore it. And the Oppo's fingerprint scanner, which is optical instead of the much better ultrasonic unit you'll find in the OnePlus, is also positioned lower down on the display, which takes some getting used to, and that's going to be a personal preference thing. The Oppo's fingerprint scanner is more than good enough in my opinion, but when you really do hold it side by side, you notice the difference. The ultrasonic unit in the OnePlus 13 is leaps better. I briefly mentioned the camera there, and that's where OnePlus has dropped a couple of important updates to the 13's camera. Let me know if you want me to do a follow-up video on the OnePlus 13 because it has seen some drastic improvements in software to its camera, which fix a few of the color and sharpness issues that I had before. But these phones in general are using very, very similar setups. I mean, identical 1x, 3x ultra-wide and selfie cameras from what I can tell. The main difference actually comes in the form of Oppo's 6x periscope telephoto, which is additional to the 3x that's already on the back. This adds a 50 megapixel 1/2.51 inch sensor, so similar to what you'd find in sort of the Pixel Pro or the iPhone Max or the Galaxy Ultra. And it adds sharpness to shots that are zoomed further in. If you shoot a lot of really long range stuff, it's pretty useful to have, and honestly, something that I personally appreciate. Outside of that though, there really isn't much to talk about because, well, these setups are incredibly similar. They both have the Hasselblad endorsed color tuning that I personally absolutely love. And honestly, OnePlus and Oppo are absolutely killing it in the smartphone photography game right now. I would have either of these over the aforementioned Galaxy Ultra, iPhone Pro Max and Pixel Pro because their cameras are versatile and powerful whilst having additional character thanks to that color tuning, where some other smartphones can just look a little bit more clinical in their photos. While OnePlus's 13 could shoot 8K 30p video, the Find X8 Pro tops out at just Ultra HD 4K 60. Even as a professional videographer who's been doing this thing for years, it doesn't bother me that my phone couldn't shoot 8K because, well, the Ultra HD 4K, in my opinion, looks better and is perfectly usable in pretty much every scenario. But if you are desperate for the extra resolution, then you're only going to have to go one way. Software is almost completely indistinguishable at this point, with OnePlus giving you the additional year of guaranteed major platform upgrades over the 4 that Oppo offers, but the user experience themselves inside the software, these Android 15 versions of ColorOS and AuctionOS, they're basically exactly the same. Look, pricing and availability is perhaps the most important part here. It might be the determining factor for many because in many places, the Oppo Find X8 Pro just isn't available, namely in the US, where the OnePlus 13 is, and so, well, there's only going to be one winner for many people. In the UK right now, the Find X8 Pro is actually on discount, so it's only £50 more than the OnePlus, and for that kind of money, yeah, I'm taking the Oppo every day of the week. However, if you do need to save a bit of money, prefer the toned down design, and absolutely have to have the top shelf Snapdragon 8 Elite, then the OnePlus 13 is the obvious winner here, and it's going to take the crown in this comparison by default basically, because it's available to more people. Personally, I'm taking the Oppo, but I want to hear what you have to say on this because, well, they're incredibly similar phones, aren't they? Are you a big OnePlus fan? Have you noticed the camera updates recently? Because I've done quite a bit of OnePlus 13 testing, and yeah, it seems to have improved quite a bit. While you're down in the comments, be sure to hit like if you enjoyed today's content, and of course, subscribe to never miss another upload. I've been Ryan Thomas, thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you later. Cheers.